Welcome to the Nature Babe podcast, beautiful souls. It's so good to be back here. I'm Amanda Butchert, aka the Nature Babe. If you're looking to massively uplevel your life, connect to your true nature, reclaim your higher self, your birthright, my goal is to really help you see your infinite potential within yourself and to be, do, and have anything your heart desires. I'm so glad to be back here in the recording studio to record another podcast for you all. We've had such an amazing response. It's been so good. And I must say, keep on responding, keep on leaving a comment, keep on sending me messages because I absolutely love hearing from you guys. I love hearing about how this content is, empowering you, inspiring you. I love that. Okay. So we're going to dive in a little bit about how how we literally can just stay frozen in fear and how sometimes we just need to get out of our own way. And I want to explain a little bit of my story of how I got out of my own way. Because even though I took some really courageous steps at the beginning of starting Nature Babes, I had shifted my identity. I had to, really lean into the trust and the belief. But I also went through like a whole dark night of the soul. I also went through some major transformations, and I also went through some major shifts that really kept me frozen for a really long time. So you guys know I'm giving you all the raw juicy stuff here in this podcast. I mean, first of all, if you're an entrepreneur, a female entrepreneur, or an entrepreneur in general, you know that it's not really for the faint hearts. Like, you go through so many growing pains, I guess you could call them. But you do go through so many shifts. And this shift that I went through, really left me questioning everything that I was doing. So I had started Nature Babes. I had um, created like a bit of a clothing line, and things were going really well, but I was hiding. I was still not fully showing up in my business. And it was, I had fear. I had fear. I still had judgment. When we talk about these layers, oh my gosh, they really do come in layers. It's not like, oh, okay, I got rid of judgment. I overcame judgment. Yes, I know in the last podcast, I said I overcame some things. I had to lean into some things, but we're just putting on the brakes here because even though I overcame those things, it kind of comes in layers. And if you know anything about healing, it's all these layers that get peeled back. And I had found myself in this place where I was in I just had so much fear. I was fear of showing up, fear and judgment. It was like it all had bubbled again up to the surface. And I had to really kind of take a look at this in a different angle. I had to take a look at my fear and the judgment and figure out what I really needed to heal, what was coming up that I needed to shift. Because I had done some retreats, I had an amazing group of people that were coming. I got tapped into sound bath. I started doing mediumship, which I feel needs a whole other podcast because that was an awakening on its own. It tapping into mediumship it shifted my whole marriage. It shifted it shifted everything. It shifted all the people around me. It shifted everyone. And we'll save that for another podcast. But what I want to talk about is, the waiting. And in that time of waiting and waiting, let's just be honest here. If you're waiting around for the right time, um, the universe is also waiting. If you're not listening, if you're not open and available and listening to the whispers of your soul, then for sure you're going to hear the screams. For sure you're going to have these massive, massive, emotional struggles and collapses that are going to happen. And so, um, you know, whatever you're waiting for, because I hear a lot of women all the time when I see them, I'm just waiting for the right time. If you're waiting for the right time to do something, honey, the universe is waiting for the right time. And if you're waiting for the perfect time, you're waiting on the divine timing, then the universe is just waiting for the divine timing. So, the time for you to go after your desires, the time for you to step into the woman that you're meant to be is now. And, I wish I had somebody, tell me that way sooner because I stayed really isolated for a little bit after my awakening because when you awaken, there's so many things that happen and it does get lonely. And I had such a different aspect of people that were around me, but then also fell away, right? I shifted a whole identity. And when people around you see you as someone that they've always known, they've seen you as this fitness instructor, they've seen you as their coach or their leader for all of these years, like when you shift, they can't see you're not that person anymore, right? So things tend to fall away. Things tend to crumble. And that was the crumble and that was the rebuild of Nature Babes. And the only thing is here is that we can sit in fear and wait for so long. We can wait for divine timing. We can wait for the right timing. We can be waiting until we're ready. Honey, you're never going to be ready. You're never going to be ready to start a business. You're never going to be ready to write that book. Your subconscious is so wired, right? It's so wired to keep you safe. And so we really have to be able to look outside of this box. We need to be able to see that it's not about getting rid of the fear. It's about taking all of the fear with us and soaring and feeding our faith and not our fear. And looking fear in the eyes and saying, I see you. I see that you're there. And you're going to just come along with me. And you're, like I said, you will never be ready to do the things that scare you, right? We know this. Your mind is wired to protect you, to keep you safe. And you are protecting yourself by saying, tomorrow will be a better day. I'll try tomorrow. I will wait for divine timing, trying and hoping and wishing are words that I really have taken out of my vocabulary because they are messing with your universal frequency communication to the universe when it comes to manifesting. It's such a wishy-washy word. Like I hope, I'm trying. I'm going to tell you straight up here. I'm going to tell you straight up, girl. Okay. I'm going to give it to you raw and real here. And, there is no trying. You're either on the boat or off the boat. There's no hoping. You are either doing it or not doing it. So this is where I had to really shift again out of my fear and change my life. And really, if you want to change your life, you have to make a decision to change your life. How many of you are ready for something different? Drop in the comments of this podcast how many of you are just ready. You're thirsty and you're ready for something different. You're ready, but you're just scared. So now you've got to take fear with you and you've got to look fear in the eye and say, we're going, honey. We're going straight through the eye of this storm. Because you know the difference between, buffalo and a cow, like a herd of a cattle. A buffalo, when a storm comes, a buffalo goes straight into the storm, straight through the storm, because they know that if they get onto the other side of the storm, they would have gone through it way quicker. And the cattle run away from the storm. And the cattle get wore out and the cattle get exhausted because they are running and running and running. And the cattle they feel burnt out. They feel defeated. Do some of you feel like the herd of cattle where you're just defeated and you're running and you're running and you're running instead of literally looking straight at whatever it is, that fear being that storm, and you going straight through it to get to the other side? Because I promise you, sister, you getting to the other side and you going through that storm is far, far, far better on the other side once you get through that storm than you staying stuck and stagnant where you are, and you listening to this podcast a year from now, 12 years from now, and realizing that you're pretty much in the same place. No one wants to stay stagnant. I know that we're scared to move and scared of change, but we have to get out of our own way. Remembering that you are the creator of your life and you actually get to co create with the universal forces, universal laws. You are in partnership with God, Source, all the time. Yeah, I said it, baby. That's right. You are co creating with God, Source, Universe all the time. And if you allow your current identity to lead, you will always experience the same or very similar reality, right? I'm going to repeat that again. If you allow your current identity to lead you, you will always experience the exact same or very similar reality that you're in right now. Ain't nobody got time for that, right? In order for you to live in the reality of your biggest calling, where all your dreams and your desires are, you must anchor in to a new identity. I know it's super scary. I've been there. And trust me, it is uncomfortable. But when you get comfortable with being uncomfortable, it is so worth it. And so that's when I had that really big shift in my life in 2019 where I let go of an old identity and I welcomed in a new identity. And yes, everything crumbled in 2019, but it was the rebuild. When we're building these skyscrapers, we need to build them on solid foundations, and everything around you must crumble for the rebuild to start. It has to rebuild, it has to start on a flat foundation, it has to be strong. We've got to go right down to the rebar. We've got to go right down to the flat surface. So identities are huge. And, identity is an instant thing that happens, right? So I was able to shift that identity. I let everything crumble. And so I was making room. I was making room. I was rebuilding. And it's even more scarier when you're rebuilding on a path that isn't even a path. It's not even there. You're blazing now, right? So identity is an instant thing that happens, right? And so it's kind of like, let me give you this example. Do you probably know somebody in your life that just completely stopped drinking? They completely stopped drinking. That was me in what year are we in? Oh my gosh, 2023. I completely just stopped drinking. And so, like, that was a huge shift for me. But what happened? So, what I'm going to say here is people that stop smoking instantly and they have shifted an identity. And so if you were to ask someone, um, like if they wanted to smoke, and they would probably say no. If someone asked me, do you want to drink? I would say no, thank you. I don't associate with that identity anymore, right? I never actually did smoke, so that was even an easier one. I would always say no, I don't want to smoke. And so if you know somebody in your life that just, cut something out of their life right away, instantly, they dropped that identity. And they dropped it and they stepped into a new identity. They created and they made space for new. The moment that you decide, right? The moment that you decide, everything changes, right? You go first and the universe will lead. You go first and the universe will lead. So when you are stepping into this energy, it's very much so you stepping into a new identity, you choosing, and keep choosing every single day and asking yourself, does this match my identity that I'm choosing to bring in? Does she smoke? Does she eat? What does she eat in the day? That's a little bit of higher self and connection to a new identity. But you need to be tapping into something, because when we take something out, we've got to tap into something else. Um, so I just want to leave you with, the time is now, right? The time is now for you to move. The time is now for you to shift. If things are crumbling around you, if you've lost your job, if your marriage is crumbling, I want to remind you that you are on the right path. I mean, oftentimes when we see things crumbling around us, we think, oh my gosh, why is this happening to me? No, honey, it's happening for you. If you've chosen in your life that you want to connect to a different desire, if you've chosen that you want to manifest something and you want to bring something into your life, bring something into the physical, then we got to have some deep excavating construction going on here. And so if you are scared to change, you have this amazing idea, but you're scared to take that first step. What you need to do is you need to bypass fear by looking fear in the eyes. You can name your fear. I did this, call your fear a name, and you can be like, let's go. We're going through this. And once you do it once, it gets easier. The first time that I went through fear, it was so scary. It was so scary. And then I did it again, and then I did it again, and then I did it again. And now it's like it comes up, the same feeling comes up, and I go, "Oh my gosh, there's that fear again." But I'm not going to let it stop me. I'm not going to let it paralyze me, because that's what it wants to do. It wants to keep me safe. I want to keep pushing and seeing what is on the other side of fear. And I guarantee you, on the other side of fear is all your desires, it's freedom, it's all of your manifestations. There is so much exciting stuff, honey, on the other side of fear. So take that first step. If you're needing a coach, a guide, someone to take you through that first step, I'm your girl. Message me. I coach women all the time. I help them, see things that they can't see in themselves. So hit me up. We'll do a coaching call. I will get you over the fence and you'll be able to see your true infinite potential. Sometimes we can't see that for ourselves. So when you take that first step and you get on the other side and you take fear, you're going to be showing the universe like you're serious. You're going all in. Fear is no longer holding you back. You are going through the storm and you are going to come out on the other side. And what is really interesting is that when the universe sees you take that first step, that aligned action, when the universe sees you take one step towards your desire, you know what happens? The universe usually does the heavy lifting. The universe usually moves other things around for you. And if it doesn't, don't freak out because a lot of people sometimes, if they're moving towards their desires and they're moving towards their dreams and something bad happens, what they do is they're like, oh my gosh, this isn't meant for me because this and this happened and I should just kibosh this whole entire dream. No, that's not always the case. Sometimes there's going to be obstacles. Sometimes there's going to be bumps in the road, but you need to keep moving over it. Okay. You need to keep going. So don't get discouraged if something does pop up and you're like, oh my gosh, this isn't for me. Know right now that, your success is inevitable. Like, can you just say that over and over and over and just know? I know I was saying a lot about trust, but what is desired by you is literally destined for you. Your success is inevitable. We have the faith, belief, and trust. It's all coming together, even when things feel like it's all falling apart. This is the real game changer here because I know we're in such a huge collective, shift right now, and things can feel like they're really falling apart. But I want you to know, have faith, trust, and believe that when things are falling apart, even when things like it seems like nothing is working out, the polarity is leading you to clarity. Okay. I want you to know and trust that everything is working out for you. And you literally can't fuck this up. You can't get this wrong, right? You can't get this wrong. Allow it to show up. Allow what needs to fall apart. Allow you to unbecome everything that is not for you, right? And when you do that, when things fall apart, you allow things that you truly align with to come together. And the key is here to never give up and never quit, right? The best is yet to come, and to know that you are here to change the world, right? And it's coming from this place. Sorry, let me change that. Like, you're here not only just to change the world. The world is changing because you're here, right? The world is changing because you're here. So, just know that I'm rooting for you, girl. I got you in my corner. If you are feeling like you are just having one of those dark night of the souls and you're feeling like you need some more support here, know that I am holding a container for women to really feel seen and heard and held. It's a beautiful 4-month container. Um, and we're just enrolling the beginning of November. So if you're wanting on this waiting list to get in, you're going to want to send me a message so you can get on the waiting list. And we are literally awakening the divine feminine. That's what this one's called, Awakening the Divine Feminine. And boy, oh boy, it is on fire. This is going to literally bring you back to yourself like never before. If you have tried so many other different things and you're wondering what is the missing piece, it is female embodiment. This is the secret sauce that maybe a lot of spiritual teachers and gurus have been missing for so, so long. And I feel so honored to witness so many transformations that happen in these containers. And so we are starting another 4-month container, November, the beginning of November. And so send us a message if you want to get on that waiting list. I want to thank you again for tuning in. If you feel that like this resonated for you, make sure that you rate this podcast. Make sure you share it with a friend. Make sure that you literally subscribe so you never miss a podcast. And I can't wait to bring you more amazing content coming your way. Talk to you later. Bye.